Hi everyone. This video is about the book When the Body Says No, The Cost of Hidden Stress. The book is written by Dr. Gabor Maté, and as I said before, I would be reviewing Gabor Maté's books, the previously published books. I think there are 4 of them, while we are waiting for his forthcoming book, The Myth of Normal, which is co-written with his son Daniel Maté. I've so far discussed just one of them in the previous video, The Scattered Minds, which was about attention deficit disorder, and its connection to development and lifestyle, personality. And the book I'll turn to after this will be Mate's book on addiction, which is called In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts. All right, now, When the Body Says No. This book is fundamentally about awareness of and understanding of health, illness, the factors involved in illness like stress, like personality or tendencies, our psychological social boundaries that might make us vulnerable to stress, exhaust us and our defenses against health issues, and the interconnections of all of those. So I said understanding. Understanding something isn't always straightforward or easy. It involves, especially with complex topics, it involves understanding the thing we are interested in its larger context. That is the key. So when we want to understand an illness or a health issue, we need to, this is the method that Maté adopts, but doesn't explicitly talk about. So I want to make it more explicit what he is doing. He goes from the part of life that he wants to understand originally, and he goes to the context of life, the larger picture, and once he gets a glimpse of the larger picture, he goes back to the disease. So that on placing something in its context is not just about understanding the thing, it is also about becoming aware of the context and understanding the context. Both happen simultaneously. So we circle back from the piece to the larger puzzle, the bigger picture, and then we circle back from the larger picture to the piece, the part that originally interested us. In this case, it is illness. So Maté places illness, which is a part of life, in the larger context of life, which includes a life narrative, the life stories that we live, or we think we are, the stories that are unfolding in our lives, consciously or unconsciously, our relationships, our roles and responsibilities, the responsibilities we adopt or we force on ourselves or on each other, our inhibitions, our repressed emotions generally, but also repressed emotions, our choices that don't honor our healthy boundaries, the healthy boundaries that we need to preserve a healthy life. There are a couple of underlying assumptions in this project that are quite really important because they run counter to the established methods of scholarship. So these assumptions deserve attention and discussion. The first one is something that Maté describes or refers to in the beginning of the book, and that is about types of knowing. Types of knowing or types of knowledge. There's one type of knowing that we experience intensely, some kinds of knowings that they seem alive to us. And we know them, we feel them intimately. There's a visceral feeling attached to them, and also they're emotional. They're emotions in some knowledge that we have. And there's another kind of knowing that is detached, distant, and we have this kind of knowledge using our detached and logical, rational mind that recognize something distant as true, like so-and-so has cancer, or that all men are mortal, or all human beings are mortal. So that's the second type of knowing that is more detached, a colder way of knowing. And of course, these two aspects of knowing could be combined with each other. And the fact that they are separated and they are now recognized as two very different types of knowing is a result of the kind of world, the kind of culture we live in. Maté says it is the modernity that has separated those two kinds of knowing. And so our task, one of our responsibilities as scholars, as people who are interested in understanding, is to kind of discover connections between those two types, or bring the more intimate, more involved, more human way of knowing back into objective knowing. There's another assumption here, and that is about the relationship between the person trying to understand something, trying to fix something, the doctor in this case trying to fix something, interfere with something or intervene, and the thing being studied, the thing that is being paid attention to. And here it is possible, Maté shows us, it is possible to adopt a mindset that assumes that what we are studying has a wisdom. So it is not just the scholar, the doctor who is intelligent, who is applying intelligence. The thing that we are studying, the human body, is not a brute, stupid set of a bag of processes that are mindless, that have no wisdom. No, the body itself has a wisdom, has its own intelligence, its own kind of intelligence. It has a logic, it follows a logic, and there is something going on there that we shouldn't try to completely control and overpower. We should understand its strangeness, its mystery. It is the fact that it is not completely within our control. So that is a style of, it is a style of understanding, it is a style of scholarship, and it is, as Maté described, it is an old-fashioned quality in doctors, a belief that the patient's body has an ability to self-heal, and a doctor should, of course, try to help the fix the illness or treat the illness, but also some parts of it is helping the body to self-heal, to heal itself. And Maté points out that this belief is no longer popular in contemporary physicians. So that's why the book is not based on an examination of human bodies. This book, When the Body Says No, it is based on interviews, a large set of interviews, over 100 interviews with patients who live with a host of different illnesses and challenges, including arthritis, cancer, diabetes, multiple sclerosis, ALS, Alzheimer's disease, and other cases. In each case, we are invited to pay attention to the background of illness. For many of the patients, this background is a life that they lived for the sake of other people. So it's a life of sacrifice. It's a mode of living for others, and a life that is devoted to fulfilling other people's expectations. Not necessarily other specific individuals like family members, but let's say the expectations of a successful career. So we see illness or exhaustion like a message that is coming from the body. The body is saying no, or the body is telling a truth that you have been denying, or we have been denying, or postponing with our conscious intentions. The body is saying something like, I can't do this anymore. I can't live like this anymore. Of course, this is our decision. We can choose to kind of recognize and honor what the body is doing. And part of our decision to honor the body is to see illness, see its reactions as a kind of message that we can listen to, and we can think about, we can react and adjust ourselves accordingly. All right, so let's shift gears, kind of take a step back and go back into the book, go back into discussing the book through a different angle. And this is a question: what is health? What is health? What does it mean to have a healthy life, healthy body? So health, just like life also, this applies to life, but also applies more narrowly to health. Health involves staying within a limited range. And we stay within that range thanks to a set of bodily mechanisms that typically come in pairs. So pairs of like what? Pairs of antagonistic mechanisms, or maybe we can say complementary mechanisms, like the autonomic nervous system responses, or inflammatory response versus the anti-inflammatory responses. So those two, we need both of them. So inflammation and anti-inflammation both help us stay within that narrow range, which is health. Similarly, increase or decrease in the number of white blood cells, increase or decrease in cortisol level. More abstractly, we can talk about defensive mode. On the one hand, a mode that we need to get into when we are living within a relatively hostile, unsafe environment. We need to be defensive, sacrificing exploration, sacrificing growth. On the other hand, in contrast to defense mode, we have growth mode, which is about exploration, growth, taking more risks, learning more about the environment. But that requires getting out of the defensive mode. Another way of describing this, Maté uses the language of safety versus autonomy. So when we develop in a way that we feel like we must prioritize safety, we sacrifice autonomy, and vice versa. So illness, with this way of thinking, we might see illness as a balancing force. So consciously, we have made plans, we have made decisions in our lives that let go of this balance of health. And then illness comes in, or at least we can see it as something like a balancing force, something that saves our life by demanding a new lifestyle, new boundaries that didn't exist before. Connected to this position is the value of negative thinking. So unlike popular self-help literature, Maté sees the value of negative thinking insofar as it is honest. Negative thinking can be, in a category of honest thinking, not repressing, not denying. When we think about some negative things, we are not denying. We are kind of taking steps towards wholeness, seeing the totality of life, totality of the facts of our life. And wholeness has the same linguistic root as healing. Healing is wholeness. In connection to negative thinking, we also get a really wonderful discussion of anger. I loved Maté's discussion of anger. Anger as a healthy expression. He says that if you pay close attention to anger, not rage, but anger, you see that there's a relaxing style. There are relaxing characteristics in an expression of anger. When somebody is expressing healthy, natural anger, their body relaxes. It's like letting go of attention. It is not about hostility. And it actually requires safety. The reason why we hold back our anger is because many times we don't feel safe enough to express it. So anger is expression of anger can be healthy. It's not necessarily hostile. And in fact, it rests on an assumption of I'm safe. That's why I can express this anger. I also recognized how this book has lots of continuities with the previous book and with the next book that I've already started reading about addiction. But the continuities are beautiful. It seems as if Maté is really elaborating on one book, is writing one book continuously. This is something that another author, Nassim Nicholas Taleb, has described about his own writing. And he's kind of given himself the compliment of saying that I'm writing one single book through these separate volumes. So one of the continuities is that the suggestion or recommendation against using brute force. You cannot use brute force on your body. Say, okay, I'm just taking these pills, doing this surgery and fixing it, like treating your body as a car mechanic treats a car. The body is stubborn. Just like the stubborn child that we read about in The Scattered Minds in the previous book on attention deficit disorder. You cannot control a child with ADD using brute force. In a similar way, you cannot control the body using brute force. You kind of have to work with the body, work with the child, and listen to the wisdom of the body, wisdom of the child. Let me read a quote from chapter 15 that I've selected, and it is representative of the general spirit of the book. So this is a quote. Let's read it. The biology of potential illness arises early in life. The brain's stress response mechanisms are programmed by experiences beginning in infancy and so are the implicit unconscious memories that govern our attitudes and behaviors towards ourselves, others, and the world. Cancer, multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, and other conditions we examined in this book are not abrupt new developments in adult life, but culminations of lifelong processes. The human interactions and biological imprinting that shaped these processes took place in periods of our lives, of our life, for which we may have no conscious recall. Emotionally unsatisfying child-parent interaction is a theme running through 100 or so detailed interviews I conducted for this book. These patients suffer from a broadly disparate range of illnesses, but the common threads in their stories are early loss or early relationships that were profoundly unfulfilling emotionally. Early childhood emotional deprivation in the histories of adults with serious illness is also verified by an impressive number of investigations reported in the medical and psychological literature. End quote. This is, I think, a nice little summary, at least, of some of the major themes of the book. So you see, again, it seems like he's writing the same book. That's a great thing. That's really great, because it shows that he is really intimately involved. Gabor Maté himself is really concerned. He's preoccupied with these themes of development, the early emotional interactions between the caregivers and the children, and the later impacts of those interactions. Let me end with talking about two potential dangers of Maté's approach. One danger is the danger of over-interpretation. This is something that people have applied it to psychoanalysis, and it is the danger of looking at illness in a way that neglects the brute facts of it, or the accidental features of it, or the radical contingency in some cases of illness. So in the case of an illness with very strong genetic factors, we probably shouldn't fall into the trap of seeing it as the body saying no to our lifestyle. So there are limitations, and it is difficult to see the boundaries. But of course, I'm very sympathetic to what Maté is doing here. I'm just seeing that there's that unfalsifiability objection potentially there. But because what he's doing is a compassionate and sympathetic project of interpretation and understanding, he is not looking for exceptions to his rule. But what we should do, our responsibility as readers, is to be careful with that limitation of this kind of project. The other danger is, again, a response in readers, but possible response is the danger of guilt. So if you see an illness as the body saying no to your choices, to your choice of lifestyle, to your conscious intentions, you might adopt a position of guilt and seeing illness as a just punishment to what you did. This isn't necessarily helpful or useful. To say that, what did I do to myself? Oh, I deserve this. Again, this is something that a careful reader should be mindful of, I think. It is not about feeling guilty. It is not about blaming people in our lives. It is about, again, at its core, this book is about understanding. It is about compassion and being aware of what is involved in a healthy life. And what we can do, we can take an illness, we can take an unfortunate event, bodily event, and we can see it as a message, and we can work with it. We can use it as a material to make future decisions and have the rest of our lives as a kind of thoughtful, an opportunity to make thoughtful responses to this message from the body. All right, I'll stop here. Thank you very much for listening if you followed me this far. And next time we will turn to the next book, In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts. If you enjoy my videos, if you like to join our reading group, the Patreon page, link is in the description of the videos. No pressure, just letting you know. Till next time.